employees who was just fired. I'm, quote, I'm scared to death, and the American public should be scared too, is what we're hearing from Charlie Statlander, who says he was working on an urgent FAA defense program in Hawaii to detect incoming cruise missiles. He thought his job would be spared because it focused on national security. But on Friday, along with hundreds of other FAA probationary employees, he was fired. And Charlie joins me now. And thank you for being here. It's great to have you. Because obviously this warning, you say that the American public should be scared by your firing and the hundreds of your FAA colleagues as well. Why is that?
Hey, Caitlin, thank you so much for having me on tonight. And, thank you for giving me the platform to tell my story. I wish I was here under different circumstances, but alas, here we are. So I do think the American public does need to be concerned about, not only my firing, but also the firing of so many public safety, national security professionals at the FAA and, within the Department of Transportation, but, writ large also throughout the federal government. And I gave that quote about being scared to death because was incredibly proud to work for the mission, to accomplish the mission of, has an incredibly important national security role. And I was working on incredibly important national security work.
From one of the several hundred FAA employees who was just fired. I'm, quote, I'm scared to death, and the American public should be scared too, is what we're hearing from Charlie Statlander, who says he was working on an urgent FAA defense program in Hawaii to detect incoming cruise missiles. He thought his job would be spared because it focused on national security. But on Friday, along with hundreds of other FAA probationary employees, he was fired. And Charlie joins me now. And thank you for being here. It's great to have you. Because obviously this warning, you say that the American public should be scared by your firing and the hundreds of your FAA colleagues as well. Why is that?
Hey, Caitlin, thank you so much for having me on tonight. And, thank you for giving me the platform to tell my story. I wish I was here under different circumstances, but alas, here we are. So I do think the American public does need to be concerned about, not only my firing, but also the firing of so many public safety, national security professionals at the FAA and, within the Department of Transportation, but, writ large also throughout the federal government. And I gave that quote about being scared to death because, while I can't talk about the specifics of the project I worked on and what all I was doing, what I can tell you is that the FAA National Defense Program that I was a part of and was incredibly proud to work for the mission, to accomplish the mission of, has an incredibly important national security role. And I was working on incredibly important national security work. And by being summarily fired without any warning, actually while I was in the process of working, I think that is detrimental to national security.
You were
All righty, let me see if I can get this back up here.
work when you got fired?
I had actually just returned from a work trip, a briefing at one of our Air Force bases, and I was working late into the night, which again is, I think, further evidence. I'm just one of hundreds of thousands of federal employees who work way more than 40 hours a week. And it goes to show that the rumors that are being spread by the administration and DOGE that federal workers are just leeches on the government are incorrect.
Now, this guy, he is obviously a FAA employee, right, or a recently fired one. And these people, they're hired to have certain and trained to have certain expertise, right, to fulfill certain duties. And when you fire people like this, and he is saying people should be concerned, people should be afraid, should be scared. Why shouldn't the average person be scared when this person is a professional working in that field? So they know the risk, they know the dangers that come when these jobs are not filled, when people are not doing their duties, you know? Um, yeah, but in any case,
But with that said, I had just returned home from a briefing, a work trip. I had another one scheduled actually for today, and I was working late into the night after I had returned home to get my notes and my thoughts down so that I could prepare them to share with, my boss and other folks in my branch before I actually went to my briefing this week.
Well, and Charlie, I just wonder what you say about this, given you talk about this defense radar system that you're working on. I know you can't go into the details of that, but the White House defended these cuts.
A defense radar system.
By saying no air traffic controllers nor any professionals who perform safety critical functions were terminated. Is that accurate from what you know?
So again, I was in the.
Let me read that back. Okay, let me see here. It says, look, Caroline Leavitt, more fake news from the AP, Associated Press, right? Who they banned, by the way, for calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico. Trump wanted them to say, no, call it the Gulf of America, and they didn't. And they got expelled from the White House press room. Okay, so number 2 is no air traffic controllers nor any professionals who perform safety critical functions were terminated. That's supposed to be fake news. If you heard that, if you heard these people were terminated, let's see.
Today, and I was working late into the night after I had returned home to get my notes and my thoughts down so that I could prepare them to share with, my boss and other folks in my branch before I actually went to my briefing this week.
Well, and Charlie, I just wonder what you say about this, given you talk about this defense radar system that you're working on. I know you can't go into the details of that, but the White House defended these cuts by saying no air traffic controllers nor any professionals who perform safety critical functions were terminated. Is that accurate from what you know?
So again, I was in the FAA National Defense Program, so I don't really have any knowledge on the air traffic controller side of that. But I can tell you that the second part of that regarding public safety or critical public safety, from my perspective and the work I was doing, is a flat out false statement.
Charlie Statlander, I know that this obviously came as a shock to you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. It's good to hear from someone who actually went through this instead of just looking at the numbers, to actually hear from a person who was affected by this. Thank you for sharing that with me tonight.
Hey, thank you so much, Caitlin.
This here is hardcore knowledge. This is the developing law.
Agriculture is now working to rescind termination letters sent to employees working on bird flu response. Those workers were among the scores of firings at multiple federal agencies, including the U.S. Forest Service. Joining us now is Amanda Mae Downey. Amanda, thank you for coming on. So you worked for the Forest Service. Did you ever think you'd be in this position, you would be on the chopping block?
So as a probationary employee, there's always that risk, right? But I worked hard and I did my job, and I did not think that this would be something that would happen to someone who goes in under these conditions and proves themselves and works really hard. And that's been a real gut punch for me.
I imagine it has been. And from what I read, you have a family that you're trying to support. Tell us about the process of termination, what that was like for you. Are you still getting paid? When does your pay end?
Yeah, so I received a text message from my supervisor asking if I had a minute to talk. I was actually busy helping my daughter move unexpectedly in Grand Rapids from her college apartment. And then he called and left a voicemail. I was still busy. I missed it. I did call him back. He said that I needed to come in and speak to him before, I believe it was close of business on Monday, that we had to wrap it up over the weekend. And so as directed by my union, I sent a message just clarifying that I was going to receive premium pay as a callback to be called in on a holiday. He did respond and confirm that I would be. And so then I went in on Monday to receive my termination letter from OPM, which I believe you guys have a copy of, and was able to pack up my stuff. I had to turn over my accountable property to another employee. I was there for about 3 hours, I think.
So we're showing it here on the screen. You say received and accepted under duress. Why was it important to you to add that line?
It was really important to me because there are so many policies under concern that we don't believe are being followed as employees, and we are, looking to our union for guidance on those things. And the possibility that it sounds like with this being such a sheer volume of employees that this is a RIF, and there are policies that have to be followed if we are under a RIF, and you can't just come in and sweep out all the worker bees because that's the easiest thing to do.
So, and going back, and I apologize if I missed this, but I'm just curious, what is the package like for you? Are you given pay through a certain time period? Is your pay cut off immediately? I just want to better understand that.
Yeah, so I apologize. I was so focused on the prior question.
Okay.
So there was a lot of concern over the weekend. So FEMI, the national account from where all of our paychecks come from.
Quickly, but you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, when they want a seat at the table, you could say wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also. Ukraine is being just wiped out. Look at what's happening to the cities. There are cities, there's not even a building standing. It's a massive, you talk about Gaza. I mean, it's literally, these cities look like Gaza.
Den største forandring, jeg har
What
oplevet her
the
og forhold til
hell
her.
is he talking about? I mean, he's talking about it looks like God. What's going on here, man?
More buildings knocked out at 100%. It would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, when they want a seat at the table, you could say wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something.
Oh, no, that's a pure Russia thing. And by the way, how many people even vote in the U.S. elections? And, isn't there voter tampering, voter suppression? Wasn't there like 4 million votes that got thrown out from 4 different swing states? Wasn't it like something like 80 million voting age citizens did not vote, plus 4 million on top of that? Isn't it something like that, Trump? And he wants to criticize I'm sorry, but how are you? There's so much wrong with this picture. First of all, he says the guy that's his good friend is the same guy that's attacking Ukraine with bombs, sending people there to die, to invade. That's his good friend. And his good friend also happens to be arming like Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, right? This is his good friend, and he's supposed to be making peace for Gaza. But his idea of making peace for Gaza is to take it from them. This man is sick. He is sick. And how can anyone just be allowed to ramble like this? I mean, I'm sorry. This is not going to do. It's like something is going to give. Something's going to give.
Coming from me and coming from many other countries also. Ukraine is being just wiped out. look at what's happening to the cities. That there are cities, there's not even a building standing. It's a massive, you talk about Gaza. I mean, it's
And whose friend is bombing it? It's his friend that's bombing it. Like, why would Ukraine want to have anything to do with Donald Trump? And obviously, he must know that, because when you say things like this, obviously you're damaging. It's the end. It's over for your relationship.
literally, these cities look like Gaza. Actually, many have percentage-wise more buildings knocked down than in Gaza. So, people are tired of it. People want to see something happen. And,
Again, what people?
the other thing that it's been bothering me for a long time, because I solved the problem with NATO. They paid hundreds
Oh, it's been bothering him a long time.
of billions of dollars into the funds of NATO when I said you got to pay, because the United States was paying for European countries. And
Listen, they've had this on their mind since Biden was in office. So it's kind of like he keeps going back to this. I said NATO. Look at how he just keeps flipping the subject. He's saying all his grievances just in one profound statement. He goes from how it looks like it's bombed, it's getting bombed out. Shouldn't they have elections? I think the people will want elections. Oh, look how horrible it looks. It's getting bombed
then
out.
in Gaza. So, people are tired of it. People want to see something happen. And, the other thing that it's been bothering me for a long time,
Change the subject.
because I solved the problem with NATO. They paid hundreds of billions of dollars into the funds of NATO when I said you got to pay, because the United States was paying for European countries, and then they take advantage of us on trade. But
Okay, trade. Actually, people need to do the research on their own about this trade. I mean, I've been looking into it, and it already, from what I've found, right? I don't have it up right now, but from what I've found, it's like the trade is bilateral trade. It's both ways. And it's not like you give us a car, we give you a car. No, but in terms of the amount, they already have that in mind to try to balance it, right? So Trump, he's given this idea, like, what's important about it is that it has to be exactly the same as us. That's how trade works. Trade doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't go up and down just to keep the ball rolling. No, that's not trade. He doesn't want that kind of maximum trade. He wants, you give me 10, I give you 10. That's it. That's trade,
seen it. Look, they have to pay. They have to find out, where's the money going to. We have, I believe, President Zelensky said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well,
That's a total lie. He just made that up. Or either Putin told him that, or he just made that up, or both. Something like that, because this is a complete, utter lie.
we gave them, I believe, last week to. We have, I believe, President Zelensky said.
He said, I believe. Notice, you see how he just changed that? I believe. Can you sue him for believing that he said something?
Where's the money going to? We have, I believe, President Zelensky said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well, we gave them, I believe, $350 billion.
Again, I believe. You can't force someone to believe something, right? He has the right to believe something no matter what. He could believe that he is Shaka Zulu if he wants.
Dollars, but let's say it's something less than that, but it's a lot. And we have to equalize with Europe, because Europe has given a very much smaller percentage than that. I think Europe has given 100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it
What is 300 plus?
is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But
You hear that? That's such phony logic. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. That's what makes us safe. Not really. Not really. I mean, the ocean is there, but there's submarines, there's bombers, nuclear bombers. There's I mean, his good friend Putin is always saying, "Hey, we have these, we have these rockets, supersonic rockets. You know, what is this guy that could reach the U.S. in this amount of time?" China's saying that too. What is he talking about? Look,
They're given, let's say, 300 plus, and it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between,
is he changing the subject again?
and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions.
Trump likes to just make things up that don't exist. And now he's talking about, he's complaining and saying the thing that actually doesn't exist. He's upset because there's no one's doing any accounting on the thing that doesn't exist.
And
This is
and
crazy.
they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So I want to see peace. Look, you know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
This guy it's like he's arguing with himself. It's like he's arguing with himself. It's funny. He doesn't even know what Zelensky would say if he did meet Zelensky. He's the one that didn't, you know? All he had to do is let Zelensky in the room and he wouldn't have to guess or wonder about anything. This is crazy.
Where they're from on the whole planet, people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where.
So if the Russian and Ukrainian people, why didn't you invite the Ukrainian people to the meeting since you care so much?
They're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think
you have the power to end it, but Putin doesn't want this war ended. And Putin doesn't want the Palestinian and Israeli conflict resolved either. I mean, why resolve it when you can just sell weapons?
it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal.
You could have never started. You should have never started it. It's like this guy is delusional. You know, it is really, really, I don't, you know, it's hard for me to understand. Is he really sick? Is he sick? Or is he just, you know, lying? I mean, he's saying it like he's trying to convince himself in a way and convince others. But who goes to this length? That's what I mean by, is he sick too? Because who goes to this length to try to make a point? Like, look how heated he's getting about himself.
I want to see peace. Look, you know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore.
He doesn't like the questions.
I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic, so sad. But with all of that being said, look, one dome would have been knocked down.
Look, you see how he's rambling. He is rambling. I don't know if he's just good at it, at rambling, you know, but he's going back into Biden now. Like, I mean, he keeps saying, I have the power to stop this war, but he's talking about what someone else did.
Down. but they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden,
Did you make a deal yet? Has anybody reached a deal since he said he was going to reach the deal on the first day, solve the problem? But now we're weeks in. But they had the meeting, so what's up? They just delayed it and said, yeah, we're going to meet again and again. It's just a preliminary meeting. Yeah, we know, because they don't want peace. That's the plan, is to try to find a way to get some money out of this thing.
in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic, so sad. But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that
It is what it is. Damn.
this could have happened, but it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taken place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll and Zelensky's at 4%, who's living there? You know, I mean, it's hard to believe that people live there. Their cities are being knocked down. And this is something that would have never happened. And by the way, for 4 years,
He just keeps repeating the same thing. Any question, he just repeats the same thing.
it didn't happen, was never going to happen. Go ahead.
Follow-up question. How would you counter the perception, because Russia's pushing for this, obviously, they don't really hold true elections, that would be a capitulation of some sort? How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like personally. It's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president.
They're being invaded. They're being invaded. And this guy, he's like talking to them like they're the ones that thought this whole thing up. Yeah, let's invade Russia. Why don't we? It's the other way around. And he's talking to the people that's getting invaded and bombed. He's talking to them like they just decided to wake up one day and go to war.
Who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent. And I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never, it should have never happened. He's grossly incompetent.
What's wrong with this guy?
And I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. Would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a
Apple of his eye?
chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. I will tell you that. But there was anything that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in.
There was never a chance of him going in. He marched 150,000 soldiers to the border, and people said, hey, Putin's going to invade. And he said, are you crazy? I'm not going to invade. What's wrong with you people? We're just running, these little exercises. And then they invaded. And look at how Trump is talking about it. They almost made it all the way to Kyiv, and then they got stopped. And they ran back. They ran out. That was the wildest thing to see. The Russian army was almost at Kyiv, and then they stopped on the road and turned around or got blown up and ran back. It was hilarious.
And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested. I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III.
I think he tries to hype up Putin's might. The Russian army has been beaten up very, very badly by Ukraine, like seriously. They beat them in the Black Sea, their ships, right? They beat them on the ground. I mean, the Ukrainians have been holding their own, right? Especially against the Russian army. Come on, that's a big army. They sent a lot of people, and they were outnumbered. Number one, so just let's not forget that. I don't know what the ratio is, but they're definitely outnumbered, definitely. So, and Russia got a lot of just old bombs to drop and shoot and get rid of, and but the Ukrainians have held their own, and they have been outnumbered. So
for something that should have never happened, and it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
Well, it's obvious that he needed to put blame to get to the next part to excuse his inaction. So blaming Ukraine for being attacked is how he gets out of the fact that he doesn't have a solution.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today?
Well, Elon Musk,
role is there?
yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what?
You're not good enough, reporter.
It's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands a week, thousands. But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know. And for 3 years, you should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it.
All right, top of the hour on this Wednesday. Good morning to you from News Nation Live in Chicago. I'm Marnie Hughes. We've got some brand new comments at this hour from President Trump on Truth Social, saying that President Zelensky of Ukraine did a terrible job and has failed so far to bring peace 3 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is seen at a critical time. The U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine and Russia is in Kyiv now, following days of talk in Moscow and Washington. So far is on normalizing relations and ending the war in Ukraine. Among those there, Keith Kellogg, part of the U.S. envoy, arriving in Ukraine ahead of talks with
Keith Kellogg has blown his load now, man. This guy, every time this guy says something, it never turns out like what he says it is.
President Zelensky. Zelensky is refusing to accept a deal where his country is not an equal partner in the negotiating. Kellogg saying this on that matter.
We understand the need for security guarantees.
He didn't say security guarantees. He said to be present at the meeting. Like, that's so, look at that. That is so manipulative.
Kellogg, part of the U.S. invasion, between days of talks between Moscow and Washington, 3 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is happening at a critical time. The U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine and Russia is in Kyiv now, following days of talks between Moscow and Washington. The focus so far is on normalizing relations and ending the war in Ukraine. Among those there, Keith Kellogg, part of the U.S. envoy, arriving in Ukraine ahead of talks with President Zelensky. Zelensky is refusing to accept a deal where his country is not an equal partner in the negotiating. Kellogg saying this on that matter.
We understand the need for security guarantees. We understand the importance of sovereignty of this nation.
President Zelensky says President Trump is living in a Russian disinformation space after Trump's comments this week, including an apparent jab at Zelensky's legitimacy as a leader.
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine. where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
That is a total lie. See, Trump is in a corner right now because him and Putin were supposed to come with something for the Gaza, Israeli. They met there, right? They talked to the Arab leaders also, but what's coming out of it? And then also the same thing about Ukraine. They were supposed to have something about Ukraine, and it's really obvious that they don't have anything, because if they had something, they would have run it right out there to everyone and said, "Look, see, we did it, y'all." So yeah, it's just really weird how he's just talking, going on and on and on about this, but actually there's no action at all. If you notice, there's no action from Trump. It's just talk. It's all talk.
I want to bring in News Nation's Kelly Meyer. She is live in Washington. And Kelly, I'm reading through
You never get to see any tangibles from Trump.
President Trump's most recent comments this morning on Truth Social. He even alleges that President Zelensky played President Biden like a fiddle and took a lot of America's money without receipts. And some of that.
See, that's Russian disinformation, basically, and that's all that Putin is really good for, is disinformation. And but it's really pathetic to see that it's not just only pathetic, because the U.S. is supposed to have its shit together, and the U.S. is taking a hit. I mean, it's like people are just like in shock and awe. Like, how could the U.S. fall so low? So low to have a rambling buffoon that's just a crook, to actually have people that will have the nerve to vote him in, and then allow another person to copy all the information, break through security breaches, getting into systems, hacking systems. I mean, there is a serious problem. There's definitely going to be a serious problem.
That money is missing. So as we dive through this,
I'm talking about in the U.S. I'm not talking about outside. I'm talking about inside.
So far, what else is he saying, and what sort of ripple is this going to have in the ongoing talks?
I think they say Zelensky has something like 54% approval rating. It was higher, but I mean, it's better than Trump's. That's the bottom line.
And it's interesting. This is just the latest in this back and forth, this ping pong between Zelensky and Trump. It really has been going on for a bit here, but really kind of escalated yesterday with Zelensky saying that he wasn't invited to those talks between the U.S. and Russia and Saudi Arabia. Trump then in his press conference saying that he heard Ukraine saying that he wasn't invited and he could have ended this all 3 years ago before Russia invaded and made a deal. Zelensky responded to that this morning by saying that Trump was living in this, quote, disinformation space. And now we're here to this latest Truth Social post just moments ago from President Trump, really lashing out at the Ukrainian president, saying that he is a dictator without elections. He says Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. He also
listen to this, right? Look, watch this, y'all. Check this out. Look at how the pressure is on. He's projecting. Zelensky, he said, Donald Trump says, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. No, he doesn't admit that. And he's never even had a conversation with anyone about that. This is totally made up, right? But fine. He refuses to have elections. He doesn't refuse to have elections. It's part of the Constitution. It's very low. In Ukraine, he's very low. Oh, it's very low in Ukraine polls. Yeah. What are your ratings? Approval ratings, Donald Trump? You're a pariah to Earth. You're the laughing stock of the earth. Like, you are a pathetic man. You are the epitome of steel. stealing money. You have no shame, no pride. And the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. Yes. A dictator without elections. Again, he's doubling down on that. Zelensky, but now check this out. This is the real part. Notice how this is in the end. Notice how this is in the end. The last thing he says is Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. That is pure projection. That's pure projection. That, if you ask me, that says that he is desperate. He must move fast. He doesn't have anything. And he's trying to do the Jedi mind trick and throw that out there to everyone else. You better move fast. Panic, y'all, panic. Something's coming. No, listen, Russia has 150 million people. Their military has been hit very hard. The EU has 450 million people. Their GDP is stronger, and although they could use more weapons, they definitely have some capabilities. And they have capabilities in the air that Russia doesn't have. So, and they're not far from Russia. So, this is trying to get people into a panic. And there's sure to be sabotage, Russian sabotage in the EU. Everyone's expecting it. That's a normal thing. It's been happening as a norm. Fires here, there, little things, or things that they know it's actually the Russian government behind it, right? Doing sabotage, so no one can say, "Aha, this is an official government thing." So Article 5, boom. So they do sabotage, right? But Trump tries to play always try to play like the Russian military is almighty. But it's not almighty, as people saw, right? Because if it was anywhere almighty with all those people they put up there, they would have already rolled over Ukraine, but they didn't. They got stopped. Sure, they got the head start, but they got stopped. And so this, to me, this is pure projection. Better move fast. No, Donald Trump, you better move fast because people are waking up and people hate you. And people hate Elon Musk. And people hate Putin. People hate Putin. But let's see here.
President saying that he is a dictator without elections. He says Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. He also says that Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is, quote, missing.
Moments has slammed Ukraine's President Zelensky as a dictator without elections. In the past few minutes, he has posted this on his Truth Social platform. Let me just take you through some of the detail. Quite a lengthy post, as you can see there. He says that President Zelensky refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls. He's claiming that President Zelensky has about a 4% rating. Polls suggest it's 57%. He goes on, the only thing he was good at was playing.
57% is higher than Donald Trump's when he got elected. Way higher.
Biden like a fiddle. He then calls President Zelensky a dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. He goes on, in the meantime,
look at that. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating. And yeah, you say it. Where is the paper? Where is the agreement? Where is anything? And then on top of that, Zelensky already said there is no agreement if Ukraine is not at the table negotiating. So there's no agreement. So you can people can see that he's blowing hot air, basically. He's trying to make it seem like he has something, but he doesn't want to show it to you. You see, and Donald Trump always does that. He's a fiction guy.
Successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried, he claims. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably...
That is so pathetic. Biden never tried. This dude is on Biden's jock hard, yo. Let me see here. And the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace. Man, are there American troops on the ground? Are there U.S. soldiers on the ground? Did the U.S. soldiers do any fighting? I'm not sure. I think Trump is really taking people for a ride, and his followers, they should be offended at this point. They should be offended, But let's hear some more.
He wants to keep the gravy train going. President Trump goes on, I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered and millions have unnecessarily died. And so it continues. He also calls Volodymyr Zelensky a moderately successful comedian, talking America into spending billions of dollars to go into a war that
would rather be with Russia. The people of Crimea, from what I've heard, would rather be with Russia than where they were. Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why you think our country's so innocent? President Putin, he just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. It was the G8. And I said, what are you doing? You guys, all you talk about is Russia, and they should be sitting at the table. I think Putin would love to be back.
Man,
President Donald Trump there repeatedly
he is on Putin's jock hard. I mean, when a dude rides another dude's jock like this, that's very telling. I mean, he's basically projecting, saying, I am getting something out of this. This guy has promised me something. This guy either has something over my head and also has promised me something. So, he's going all out for Putin to convince the world of something they will never be convinced of. Even the people that buy weapons from Putin is like, man, what the hell is Trump talking about? Yo, look, Hamas didn't even acknowledge Trump's so-called, negotiating on Gaza. Trump tried to insist that if you don't release these hostages by Saturday, 12 o'clock, all hell's going to break loose. And Hamas said, we're going to stick with the original agreement that we made with Biden, the timing that was already laid out, that agreement. So even, when you see Trump doing it, it's like even the people that work with Trump, work with Putin are like, damn, man, you really on this dude's jock, man? Like, wow, that's deep.
Russian talking points about a number of things, including the war in Ukraine. Just hours after a U.S. delegation sat down with Russian negotiators in Saudi Arabia to discuss plans to end the war in Ukraine without, we should know, any representative from Ukraine, the country that was invaded, in that room. Trump went so far as to falsely claim that somehow Ukraine and Ukrainians started the war.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
You should have never started it, man. The whole world is like looking at this guy. Because, see, don't get me wrong. Manipulating, that's one thing. Lying, that's one thing. But this guy looks like a damn fool. That's a third thing. And that's what makes people scratch their head like, what's wrong with this guy?
Talks between the U.S. and Russia lasted 4 hours. This morning, the Kremlin says talks between Trump and Putin could take place by the end of this month. That's quite soon. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is very much pushing back against Trump's latest comments.
Unfortunately, President Trump, I have great respect for him as a leader of a nation that we have great respect for. The American people who always support us, unfortunately lives in this disinformation space.
The U.S. president, he says, living in a disinformation space.
And he is living in a disinformation. Trump is total fiction land. And Zelensky, I hope you understand, a lot of Americans are with you. And obviously, if Kamala Harris would have been the president, that would have continued along with a whole lot of other stuff. but you know that Americans need, by the way, at home. But most Americans, the ones that I know, weren't thinking about abandoning it. People get it, you know. It's called international relations, and different countries do that different ways. So then it's also the issue of like authoritarian leaders, dictators that just use their power to oppress people, and that's what happened in Ukraine's case. So the world's not going to get better if you just let dictators run around like that, you know.
Inclination towards Russian President Vladimir Putin is
selling weapons, you know, hiding. See, that's the thing about Putin. He hides. He doesn't, you know, come out and talk about all the weapons dealing openly that he does. He just stands around and watches everyone else talks about what they do. And he never volunteers what he's doing, you know.
Drawing bipartisan criticism, Democrats pushing back against Trump's false claims about the war.
Now with President Trump saying, well, the Ukrainians shouldn't have started a war. It is shocking to have the leader of the United States of America not know the most fundamental elements of how this crisis came to be.
Republican Senator Roger Wicker also rightly called those comments false. Back to the panel now. Kristen, I'm just going to ask you about the politics because you have your finger on this and you test this. Do Republican voters like to see the U.S. president endorse Kremlin talking points?
No. So Republicans are not, contrary to, I think, those who are on the other side of the aisle, they don't love Vladimir Putin. They're not supporting Russia in this conflict. However, Republicans and increasingly Democrats do wonder what's the end game here with the conflict in that region, that they don't necessarily see the possibility of Ukraine taking back all of its territory and there's a ticker tape parade and everybody's excited and they won, that no longer feels like a possibility. And so there's this tension between, on the one hand, very few, if any, voters say, yes, I hope Russia prevails in this conflict, or yes, I'm sympathetic to Vladimir Putin. On the other hand, does Trump have a little bit of leeway because so many voters say, I don't know where this is going, let's just get us out of this?
But that's fundamentally different because that is true. And for instance, on the NATO thing, I wrote about this in my book, it was a dirty little secret in Europe and even the States that Ukraine getting membership in NATO was largely off the table, at least in the near term. But it is different to have a U.S. president say Ukraine is responsible for Russia's invasion. And it's not entirely new because this president
that is sick. That is sick for Trump to say. That is just sick.
Has never definitively blamed Russia for the invasion.
So, I worked in the Clinton administration when Leonid Kuchma, the second democratically elected president of Ukraine, came to the White House. We had a state visit. It was a very big deal. It was important because we were trying to bolster Ukraine. President Clinton went, First Lady Hillary Clinton went. So to now see some 20 years, 30 years, dating myself here, later, you have our president. So we were there to support Ukraine. Now our president is undermining the Ukrainian president and siding with Russia. I mean, I think at a bare minimum,
that's crazy.
People see that. They may not see the end game, but also I wonder, do they see that and say, okay, but what about the problems here in our country? What about California? What about Asheville, North Carolina?
Oh, 2 seconds. What is this? It's not playing? Oh, wow. Why is this one not playing? That's weird.
Наших переговоров было восстановление российско-американских отношений. Кто-то хочет быть посредником между Россией и Соединенными Штатами. Наверное, это избыточные требования. Да, и самое главное здесь в решении всех очень острых вопросов, включая и украинское урегулирование, заключается в том, что без повышения уровня доверия...
He welcomes Trump's peace deal. Look at this. He welcomes Trump's peace deal. This is the thing about, I think he was saying, yeah, we're going to keep the land and you're going to pay the U.S. back their money for their weapons and from the minerals in the ground. You're going to sign this contract. This is crazy. Trump actually tried to get Zelensky to sign a contract to give up the minerals of his land. for some extended period of time.
Вере
That is so
между
deplorable.
Россией и Соединенными Штатами решить многие вопросы, в том числе и украинский кризис, невозможно. Что касается переговорного процесса, то мне в ходе телефонного разговора президент Трамп сказал, могу это подтвердить, что, конечно, Соединенные Штаты исходят из того, что переговорный процесс будет происходить при участии и России, и Украины. Никто Украину из этого процесса не исключает. Поэтому нет оснований.
And look at how Putin, keep in mind, this man invaded and is bombed and lost. So I don't even know how many people, let me see, how many Russian soldiers died invading Ukraine. There's also North Korean soldiers who died. I mean, there's almost 1 million Russian troops have been killed. 839,000. 839,000. This is sickening. And look at how calm he's talking about it. Look, check this out.
As of February 20th, 2025, estimates of Russian military casualties in Ukraine vary significantly. Ukrainian armed forces report approximately 839,440 Russian troops have been killed since the invasion began.
Damn.
Cite Search, US defense officials estimate around 120,000 Russian soldiers have died, with an additional 170,000 to 180,000 wounded, totaling nearly 300,000 casualties. Site Turn Search 4, SESH, BBC Russia and Mediazona have independently verified over 90,000 Russian military deaths. The disparity in these figures arises from differing methodologies, access to information and potential biases. Accurately determining casualty numbers in active conflict zones is challenging due to limited access and the chaotic nature of warfare.
Какой реакции на российско-американскую встречу? Это должно быть подготовлено. Я с удовольствием встречусь с Дональдом, мы давно очень не виделись. И у нас нет никаких близких отношений, но все-таки предыдущие годы, за 4 года работы, когда он был президентом, мы встречались и ровно очень обсуждали наши межгосударственные.
He's just calmly talking about murderous stuff, you know? This is just deplorable.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, мы рады приветствовать. И вы хотите, чтобы даже мысль какая-то присутствовала на переговорах об урегулировании?
Look at how disgusting this guy is. Do you want even a thought of Russia ceding territory to be allowed at the peace negotiations? It's like Russia, you're the biggest geographical nation on earth with very few people. You only have 150 million people. So yes, we can envision that. We want the thought of Russia ceding that land that it took from Ukraine. We can bear that thought. And you can too, because you have more land than any other people on earth. Okay? That's pretty much what it comes down to. I'm surprised China has not invaded Russia already, because they could use some space, you know. But yeah.
Относительно того, что какие-то территории нужно еще уступить. Уступить-то как? С людьми, с русскими?
Should we give them up with the Russian people or without people, just the rare earth minerals? Look at where their mind is. Look at where this guy's mind is at. Nothing about the loss of life comes out of his mouth.
Или без людей, с одними редкоземельными металлами. Знаете, по-моему, здесь пусть те, кто фантазирует о том, как Соединенные Штаты могут помочь регулированию, а мы не скрываем, что...
We don't deny that such a cooperation, U.S. facilitating settlements, is possible. Соединенные Штаты могут помочь регулированию, а мы не скрываем, что такое содействие вполне может быть, тем более, что Соединенные Штаты играют главную роль в украинском кризисе с самого его начала.
Look, so that's his way of what he's doing is boxing out, saying, yeah, we don't want Ukraine at the table. And we're happy with the U.S. Think about this. We're happy with the U.S. They've been the leader since the beginning of the conflict. He's happy with that. But it's obvious that it's only because it's Trump, because he didn't like it when it was Biden.
Главную роль в украинском кризисе с самого его начала. Касается
Okay, regarding the wish of European countries to take part in negotiations on Ukraine, here it is. Let's see. I mean, he's scared of the EU. I mean, they are, and they are doing sabotage right now, Russia, in the EU too. They've been doing it for years now. So, but it has escalated, and I don't think Russia wants the EU feeling fearful for its existence or its way of life. Like, I'm just saying that right out, because that's how people feel.
Участие стран, их желание участвовать в переговорном процессе по Украине, вы знаете, их желание уже было неоднократно удовлетворено. Философия-то у европейцев никуда не делась, поэтому я не знаю.
The European philosophy has not gone anywhere, so I don't know what can they do at the negotiation table. Look, this is so funny. Russia has 150 million people. The EU has 450 million. Russia's GDP, what is that? And what's the EU's GDP every year is 15 trillion. What's Russia's? Is it even a trillion? Is it even 1 trillion? You see, so this is like a criminal talk, because people that care about people can easily make way more money and success than these people that rule Russia have done for the Russian people. These people that rule Russia have kept Russia in poverty, straight up.
Что им делать за...
And I just mean the whole country in poverty. It's nothing to brag about. They haven't invested in the country. It's just people, the oligarchs are just about the money. The leaders are just about the money. And the people are just like,
переговорным столом. Если они будут вот так выцыганивать какие-то лукавые идеи про заморозку конфликта.
Look at how he's talking. If they continue scheming some tricky ideas, look, he's projecting. That is pure projection. That's exactly what he's doing. Continuing to scheming some tricky ideas.
А сами по
per usual.
Обычаю по своему нраву и привычкам будут иметь в виду продолжение войны, то зачем?
Now it's manipulation. Oh, yeah. So in other words, you don't invite them to the meeting. You don't invite the EU. You don't invite Ukraine. And now, guess what he's saying? As they like and usually do, just mean continue the war. Why invite them there? Yeah, like they just want to continue the war. It's them that just want to continue the war. How do you stop a war you're not invited to stop? They have to be invited to stop,
Поручению президента вы направляетесь в Эр-Рияд для участия в российско-американских переговорах.
Это правда.
Чего вы от этих переговоров ожидаете?
Мы всегда.
What do you expect from these talks? Whenever we go to negotiations that our partners suggest, we first of all want to listen to them.
Когда отправляемся на переговоры по предложению наших партнеров, мы прежде всего хотим их послушать. Президенты Путин и Трамп, когда они общались по телефону, договорились о необходимости.
President Putin and Trump, when they spoke on the phone, agreed that they need to put behind them. Okay.
Оставить позади.
That's a desperate Russia. I mean, they're spelling it out. You know, he's really looking for that. They're really looking for that. But I don't understand why, because, you know, the majority of the American people loathe Russia and because of the government they have there, you know. So I don't know if he thinks this is just like, you know, permanent.
Абсолютно ненормальный период в отношениях двух великих держав, когда они, по сути дела, не общались, кроме как по отдельным техническим и гуманитарным вопросам. И президенты договорились, что
he's talking to his
нужно диалог
constituency in Russia. So
возобновлять.
humanitarian
Страны
issues.
имеют участие в этом
All
мероприятии.
right, let's see here. That was interesting.
А также
Let me see here.
Post on his social media platform calling Zelensky, quote, a dictator who better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. Ukraine and create a Russia-centric world order. Here's what Putin said. Let's play it.
The problem with what they presented. What was the issue with what the Americans showed you yesterday?
It's not in our interests today, not in interests of sovereign Ukraine. I'm just a president. I'm a manager. And after my term, there will be another manager. And these resources, this is not mine, of our people. And I'm a guarantor that these resources will have our children. With all partners, please make profits, make business, is open for your companies, in some cases exclusive to your players. We are strategic partner, and that's why we trust Americans, American people, and Europeans, some European countries who helped a lot. It's about it, but it's not mine. I'm not take, give. So it's very serious things. Okay.
And by the way, remember what Donald Trump said while he was campaigning? Do you remember when he said that he would end the war before he even took office? Because he says he knows Zelensky well and he would be able to resolve the situation in 24 hours. He said even before he took office during the
He sure did.
transition, he'd be able to come. Well, I've got the receipts. Let's play that clip.
End the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I
How
do.
would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well.
I'll end that war between those.
Oh, he knows Zelensky very well. Well, apparently he doesn't.
Two even
Let's hear
before
that again.
End the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I
How
do.
would you
got the receipts. Let's play that clip.
end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours?
Yes, I do.
How would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well.
I'll end that war between those two countries in 24 hours. It won't even take that.
I mean, but by the way, Donald Trump
I mean, he was speaking real bold.
lies about everything. I mean, here's the video of him saying that he was going to, well, I'll just do this side by side here, okay? Of Trump saying that he was going to bring down prices on day one. Prices were going down under former President Biden, and now the
Prices have gone up now. And you people that voted for Trump, claiming that he was going to bring down the prices, don't ever in your mind ever get it twisted again that a billionaire running for president has that in mind.
prices are going back up. Inflation is back, and it's surging under Donald.
Especially you prejudice people out there, because if you're going to be prejudiced against anybody, it may as well be a billionaire.
Trump because of his reckless economic policies that have hit America very, very quickly.
Not the good ones, though.
Here, play this clip.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make.
Wow, he said he was going to bring the prices down. That is crazy. I almost forget that he talks this way from time to time. He really brags.
A price.
Play this clip.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Starting on day one, he's going to drive the prices down, but he didn't drive it down. He didn't.
The day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down. Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will. The day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to drive prices.
This clip.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump, I had nothing to do with it.
In addition to that.
Oh, he had nothing to do with the inflation. Nothing. He's just throwing tariffs around with our major trading partners, our main trading partners. I mean, can you believe that? And he's like, I got nothing to do with it, with the inflation. What are you talking about?
Is back.
We will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only
and you see Elon Musk just kiss his ass. Yeah, that's all he could get out of his mouth.
We drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back.
Yeah.
I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump, I had nothing to do with it.
In addition to that.
Oh, sure. You had nothing to do with it.
Post about Zelensky, Donald Trump then posted fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump reins in independent agencies to restore a government that answers to the American people. What Donald Trump is referring to is he signed an authoritarian, unlawful executive order yesterday while vacationing as well in Palm Beach. And according to this executive order, the only person who can tell an agency what
I thought he was negotiating peace.
The law is. It's not judges. It's not the agency's own expertise. That Donald Trump declares whatever the law is for all agencies, and that he has the direct control, and that everybody, whether you're the SEC, whether you're the FCC, whether you're the FEC, whether you're the FTC, whatever the agency is, you now report directly to the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, the author of Project 2025, who reports directly to Donald Trump. These agencies in the past had been independent agencies that pursue their independent policies, but now Trump is saying it all goes through me. I say what the SEC does. I say what the FEC does. I say what everything does. Donald Trump
is
an authoritarian. Here, play this clip.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions.
I mean, look, he's not even hiding it. Look at his face. You know, this guy, he definitely got some issues.
In the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the president or the attorney general can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
What? Are you out of your mind? This is some bullshit. This, y'all, again, fiction land. And if anything like what he just said was possible, you would be living in a dictatorship.
Speaks to supervise and in agencies.
Donald Trump is an authoritarian. Here, play this clip.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the president or the attorney general can.
The longstanding norm? What? There's no longstanding norm.
Speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
That's some. This is some clown stuff. Why even waste the paper?
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference.
Just so you can see this executive order for yourself, it's called Ensuring Accountability for All Agencies. And if you read it, it goes on to say that it says that in order to approve administration of the executive branch and to increase regulatory officials' accountability to the American people, it shall be the policy of the executive branch to ensure presidential supervision and control of the entire executive branch. Moreover, all executive departments and agencies, including so-called independent agencies, shall submit for review all proposed and final significant regulatory actions to the Office of...
Look, Trump, I'm sorry, but Trump may as well just do an executive order that said, and the executive order is to hand over all the gold in Fort Knox to me by Sunday. I mean, this is what he's doing. He would literally write. He may as well do it because none of this stuff is legal. So if he's going to be doing criminal stuff, he may as well do an executive order about the gold in Fort Knox, do the executive order about the nuclear weapons, bring them to him. They're now his property. Only the president can control and decide what happens with nukes.
Information regulation.
Independent, forget any independent or department or agency. Screw that. It goes straight through me.
Regulatory affairs within the executive office of the president before publication. The so-called, he calls them so-called independent agencies. Also, if you look at Section 7, Trump's new executive order instructs federal employees to ignore the judiciary's interpretation of the law and follow his instead. Meanwhile, you have DOJ. It looks like they're changing the.
That's not even legal to request this. Look at this. Ignore the judiciary interpretation of the law and follow his. There it is right there in your face. What is this? Treason? You're supposed to follow the Constitution. The judiciary is supposed to follow the Constitution.
Instead, meanwhile, you have DOJ. It looks like they're changing the numbers where they're claiming fraud exists. So yesterday they claimed that they found $8 billion in fraud, but when you actually looked at this specific company's government contract, it didn't say 8 billion. It actually said 8 million, but DOJ said that they saved 8 billion. And then they changed the numbers, it looks like, in the computer system to have it be reflective of 8 billion.
Are you serious? Oh,
reached out to that company directly, and the company told me that it was 8 million, a ceiling of 8 million, not 8 billion, as DOJ had said. And then we're all...
I got to give it up to Midas Touch. They really doing their journalism well. It's got to be the top news network right now, seriously. But in any case, folks, I'm just going to call it earlier today, but check this out. Just wanted to remind people, this is what we had. This is the worst, this is the best that the United States had to show the world for its military and its defense. Check this out.
To your job. How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them?
He was saying that to defend Pete Hegseth at his nomination hearing. where the senators have to interview him and ask questions and then take a vote, right?
To step down and resign from their job?
They asked him about his drinking habit, and he said, "Hey, if I get this job, I won't be drinking again."
And don't tell me you haven't seen it because I
And he's like defending him, saying, "How dare you try to make it seem like he has a problem? That's terrible. You're supposed to try to help him." Why?
know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke.
But see, the problem is that the American people didn't know then, but they're not playing around with it. This guy is an out of control alcoholic. He can't keep the liquor out of his hands. He gets the shakes without the liquors. And this guy's trying to make it seem like, he's gaslighting people and manipulating the audience. He's trying to make it seem like they're just playing a game, saying it. He just drinks a little. They want to hop on him and pounce on him and take advantage of it. And, that's shameful. Give the guy a break, even if he does have a problem. No, but what the Dems are saying is that, no, this guy's a danger. His problem is a danger. It's that bad. Check
The
it.
senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it because I know you have.
And what's so funny is they be talking about DEI. Man, since when do you hire a drunk to lead your agency? Like, what is this all about? When do you do that? What DEI person was a drunk that got hired? This is crazy.
And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy.
Now check out. He did all that whining. Now Pete Hegseth gets his chance to be at the NATO summit. And look at this man.
An international outlet with the U.S. outlet. Pardon me.
Okay, hold on. Go boy. This is ridiculous. The guy can't keep it out of his hand. He can't keep. He's literally drinking some sort of alcoholic beverage.
Yes, sir. What we're going to take from the U.S. is Logan Rattick from Newsmax, please.
And look at how he took a swig. Look at how he
take
took the swig.
from the U.S. Logan Rattick.
You see how he swished it around in his mouth?
From Newsmax. Pardon me, sir. What we're going to take from the U.S. is Logan
Look,
Rattick.
and soon you're going to be able to hear him slurping it.
From Newsmax, please.
Yeah. Now, I did find a clip of Hegseth drinking water. That looks different than this. That's all I'm going to say. Let's watch one more time.
Pardon me, sir.
There are more clips of this.
What we're going to take from the U.S. is Logan Rattick from Newsmax, please.
Yeah, he's going. He's sipping on that.
I just feel like the way that he is taking the sip and he's like letting it permeate does not seem to me like it's water.
What we're going to take from the U.S. is Logan Rattick from Newsmax, please.
It definitely doesn't look like water.
That's so nuts. That's so nuts. All right. So there are more instances of this because obviously he is there for a minute. He had a 27-minute news conference. As someone asked, what is he drinking? He started drinking something 2 seconds in the Q&A. And why can't he stand still? Good question. Let's watch.
Start with the U.S. press. We're going to take 2 from the U.S. We'll take 2 from international, and then we'll go from there.
You have focused on
because he's been drinking already.
What Ukraine is giving up. What concessions will Putin be asked to make?
Ultimately is guaranteed by strength of Europeans who are there prepared to back it up.
Right in the far right.
Regarding the new defense investment pledge. When you and President Trump...
Pardon me, sir. what we're going to take from the U.S. is Logan Rattick from Newsmax, please.
Satya from NHK, the Japanese TV station. Thank you very much. I would like to ask about China.
With the U.S.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
So there it is, folks. That is the craziest thing I have seen. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. That's what it does, and the situation doesn't look too good. But keep in mind, you know, the world is really laughing at these guys. The people are scared. That's normal because you don't normally want lunatics at the helm. But at the same time, you know, these guys show their weak side too every second. So keep that in mind. But in any case, folks, I'm out of here. I'll catch up with y'all later on in a few. Peace.
Up to 129. 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know that can't possibly be because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127.